hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated. It's true. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago, which they haven't enforced yet. That's not hate. That's true.
Your question is having said when an airliner crashed with a number of white people on board, that you were glad it happened. The white race in this country collectively guilt of these crimes that our people are suffering from collectively. And therefore they will suffer some collective disaster, collective grief. And when that plane crashed in France with 130 white people off.
No one man should withstand the weight of the world on his shoulders that die when it's over. Ain't no global warming, the world get colder. Ain't nobody doing shit, they taking our culture. Wake up and see y'all, ain't no balance on one side of the seesaw. We at war with Esau, but ain't nobody down with us. My niggas get up. I know what it's like to wake up fucked up. I know what it's like when the pain cut deep. You can't get on your feet and you just wanna stay asleep. When the shit too much, a nigga needs to roll up. And all you got is this money and it still ain't enough. To live is to survive, gotta hustle to stay alive. My girl don't understand, I can see that look in her eyes. I'm not the troublous soul, I pacify with lies. I inflict the pain and wipe the tears of her cries. Baby, I know you hurt me, apologies in advance. I just pray to God that he give me another chance. Try to make it to heaven, I got one hell of a plan. Dancing with the devil makes me a hell of a man. Yeah, I'm trying to be a better man, but my nigga down south won't put me up 200 amps. He told me if I needed to put this shit in my hands, is that a curse or a blessing, or do I see at the end?
We learned that 120 of them were from the state of Georgia. The state that my own grandfather was a slave in. Why, to me, it couldn't have been anything but an act of God, a blessing from God. And I
so shit we'll never forget. It's embedded, we get dead, man. There's levels to this. And I said it like I said it, cause I wanted to hit. I give credit where it's relevant, we better than them. It's evident we set the precedence to elevate, man. But we'll never know the evidence, kill another black man. And how we supposed to trust the hand we eat off? If we hand fed the very poison we feed off, we don't even need all this extra shit they letting us get. It only hold us back from our excellence. Let's all get together, ball, invest in shit. The true value of life. Love my children and wife. Love to all of my niggas who can't be free for the fight. R.I.P. all my niggas who passed on for this life. I love my brothers off the strip, whether he wrong or he right. Let your woman have that glory, baby. I'm wrong, you right. The true glory is through God and how I'm shining my light. Bust down Cartiers to see my sins in the night. Now when I call my darkest hours, all depends on the price. I just had an with snakes, I see men become mice. I let my pen speak my mind, the only way I think twice. All that I sacrifice, I shall exceed in this life.
You don't get freedom, people. Freedom is never safeguarded, people. Anyone who is depriving you of freedom isn't deserving of a peaceful approach by the ones who are being deprived of their freedom. And when black people in this country come out from under the mental straitjacket that the Negro clergymen have placed them in, and begin to see that the only way you can get freedom is to get it the same way the white man in this country got it from England, or he said he got it from England. He was willing to pay the price for freedom. And when you're willing to pay the price for freedom, then you get it. But the Negro in this country has never been willing to pay the price for his freedom. All of the price that we've been paying in the past has been freedom for the white man. We fought abroad so that the white man in America could be free today to stick police dogs on us, to beat our people in the heads with police clubs, and to turn water holes on little women and children and babies simply because they want to walk down the street like decent human beings. That's now the only way you can have peace is to eliminate those injustices, and the American white man is not going to eliminate them. He's going to talk that pretty talk, but he'll still continue to practice those inhuman deeds.
Yeah. Cloud chase, that's the shit they glorify. I don't even try hard, that's gangsta shit immortalized. No records of a trace when your crime is organized. No man is over me, I'm highest in the morning time. get this work and some overtime. You know the vibe. Little nigga, you know it's me. I don't need them to notice me. When conflict get crucial, I can't help but do them bogusly. Smoke you like a stove, beat you like you stole from me. Niggas out of body, put you back where you supposed to be. I shoot at you waking in the moment, niggas toast for you. My niggas do the most for me. That's what they supposed to do. All the smoke, nigga, cut the shit you think bad enough, you test. And you know how I'm coming, I ain't ducking nothing. You know when I pull up on your block, it's busting. You know how I'm coming, you came with me. You know what's going, stop playing with me. I want all the smoke, nigga, cut the shit you think bad enough to test. And you know how I'm coming, I ain't ducking nothing. You know when I pull up on your block, it's busting. You know how I'm coming, you came with me, gang. You know what's going, stop playing with me. Real gangsters move critically. When that shit get critical, no peace amongst enemies, no pity for the pitiful. Real nigga down to the bones and the minerals. Stick to the G code, I never told another soul. True to the literature, now salute the general. Kill you on your birthday, then slide on your funeral. It ain't about the clout chase, I'm a man of principle. Niggas out of body, now they body isn't critical. Cradle to the casket, the life we live is typical. God body, cause I will depart you from your physical. Niggas live in fantasies, act like they only one. Where do you think you know me from? What's good? What's good? Shalom, hold on. Grab my tea. Get this sticky. What's good? What's up? Shalom, shalom. What's cracking? What's cracking? We back. I know y'all see the title. When the sky is falling and the end comes, what are we to do? Right? So yeah, we're gonna get into a couple prophecies and stuff like that, and things that surely come to pass, right? And we're gonna break it down. We'll get into it. Of course, giving all praises to the Most High, we do so in His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, who the world might know best as Jesus Christ, right? We'll get into it. So, dealing with this geopolitics stuff, this global conflict that's going on around the world, because understanding there's way more countries into it with each other than the ones we see on the news. They're just talking about the ones that we see. But it's over damn near almost 60-something global conflicts that's going on right now, in, all 7 continents, right? So we'll get into it. Because, like I said, you've been watching the stuff with Russia, Ukraine, Israel, all that stuff, right? And so yeah, peace talks and stuff, stuff heating up, stuff simmering down, right? So we're gonna get into it though, see what the Most High got to say about all this, right? Let's start at 1 Thessalonians 5:1, right? Hold up. In 1 Thessalonians 5:1. And it say this, it says, "But all times in the season, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you." So meaning like what I'm about to write to you, I don't have a time limit on this, on when it's gonna happen, but it's gonna happen. That's what Paul is saying.
For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord come, so that the day that you know perfectly, the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. So he's saying like the day of the Lord is gonna come like a thief in the night, right? You think about that, because if you chilling at the house, right, relaxing, you're not expecting somebody to break into your house. And usually when somebody come to break into somebody's house, it's of course it's unexpected. If you knew somebody, you knew exact time a person was coming to break into your house, you'll be ready, right? So although we're watching stuff on the news, we see this country going at it with that country, you know, and then we see it simmer down, like they talking about peace talk and all that. But like it says, the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night, meaning, it's gonna pop off when you least expect it. Esau had something called the doomsday clock, right? And the doomsday clock, is a thing that they devised. I believe they started it in the 50s or 60s or something like that. And it basically, in a nutshell, not to be all super technical, it's basically a doomsday clock that count down to their very own destruction. And so then every time like global events happen, they move it back and forth, depending on what's going on. If stuff is going good, they move it away from midnight. If stuff is going bad, they move the hand closer to midnight, right? So even the elites of the world, they know that their time is up. That's why they're doing all this stuff, right? And them themselves is trying to, you know, uh, count it down or whatever. You can almost say that they're trying to usher it in themselves, right? Because they do believe in taking their own destiny in their own hands, if you know what I mean. So it says, "For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord comes so as a thief in the night." Right? So we gotta keep that in mind, that the day of the Lord comes so as a thief in the night, right? Let's get Matthew real quick. Matthew 24 and 43. Let's see what our big brother Christ had to say about it. So let's start at 42. It says, "Watch therefore, for ye know not the hour the Lord do come." So this is Christ talking about it. So Christ, he's saying like, look, I don't even know when I'm coming back, right? He don't know when the Most High God is gonna, get fed up with what's going on in this world and say, you know what, go ahead and rectify the situation, right? So then he says, "But know this, that the good man of the house that known that what watch the thief would come." So like we were just saying, if you knew what time your house was about to get robbed, when these people was about to come, you will prepare yourself, right? So it says, "But know this, that if a good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched, but would not suffer his house to be broken up." So if you know what's going on, you're going to prepare yourself. And that's what we're doing. That's why we're reading these prophecies, breaking them down and matching them up to world events. Because we're trying to be that good man that watches the house and makes sure nobody's breaking in, right? So it says, then it says, "But therefore be ye also ready, for it must so as an hour as ye think not the Son of Man cometh." Right? So we don't, so we have to be ready, because we don't know when, this stuff can just jump off, because the doomsday clock just moved to, I believe it's at 80 seconds. When Hamas and those people got into it, a few years ago, it moved to 90 seconds, if I remember correctly. And now it moved to 80 seconds, or I believe 80 or 70, one of the two. I got to look it up. But I know it's less than 90. So now what does that mean in layman's terms? That means any minute, according to their clock, the world is 1 minute and 20 seconds away from sudden destruction at any given time. It can go down. That's what that basically means, right? And their by their standards. And I mean, if you look around the climate of the world, it seems like it can go down any minute because everybody angry about something, protesting, everybody going against their government for whatever reason. So yeah, we can see it, right? Back over here, back to Thessalonians. So it says, for you know perfectly that the day of the Lord come as a thief in the night. And when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail of a woman with child. So you see all these nations, they talking about peace, like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a ceasefire, oh yeah, we're gonna have this peace thing, oh yeah, we're trying to, negotiate some stuff, right? And it might seem like it simmered down, right? It seems like everything can be cool, right? Because it's just like it tells you in the days of Noah, so would it be when the Son of Man returned, right? So people are going to be relaxed, right? And it says, for when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child. They should not escape, right? And it's like that, because just like a woman that's going through birth, right, having birth pains, those contractions, the contractions come and go. They contract. They're there for a second and they leave. And it's just like what we see in this climate. You see these, nations getting into it about whatever they're getting into it. It seems like World War III can kick off any second. Then it simmer back down again. Then it boils back up. But what's going to happen? It's going to be like a boiling point. It's almost like this. Look at it like this. In the wintertime, right, if you live in a cold area, your car gets stuck in the snow. And you got the thing that people do to get their car out. They rock it back and forth. So you keep rocking it. You're pushing it a little by little. You keep pushing it. As the car rock back and forth, you get more momentum. Then pretty soon you're out of the ditch, right? So, but instead in this metaphor, you're not out of the ditch. You go further into the ditch as this world events continue to rock back and forth, right? So, Revelation 18:2. Let's start. At verse 2, right? So it says, let's go back here, just read it again. So it says, for when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction shall come upon them as a travail of a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So when God come and judge this place, it's not going to be no escapees, nobody running away, no, POWs, none of that, right? Revelation 18:2. And he cried with a mighty strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen. So that's what this place is called prophetically in the Bible, Babylon. It says, Babylon the Great is fallen. It is fallen. It has become the habitation of devils. And that's what this place is. Look on the news. Look at the little Epstein stuff, the stuff that's going on, that's coming out with all of that stuff that being brought out, the satanic stuff that goes on, the PDF stuff that's happening that we're aware of, the unaliving, and it's a whole bunch of crazy stuff. It's like it's very, and I be telling people because it's so shocking because we are good-hearted nature people, although they try to paint us like we're just violent people, but we're good-hearted people, right? So it's shocking to us to hear the outrageous and outlandish stuff that these people do on their free time, right? Because we just like to chill, barbecue, probably have a couple of drinks, listen to some music, That's what we like to do in our free time. But these guys, I mean, man, jeez. So anyway, it says, and he cried with a mighty strong voice, saying, Babylon is fallen, and is fallen, and has become a habitation of devils. And that's what's all here, a habitation of devils. You know, these people are the biggest liars, deceivers, all that. I mean, we just watched it. Some of us watched this little congressional hearing. You know, they put the little, with the little Pam Bondi, whatever the girl name is, lying. Put the FBI dude on there earlier this year, I believe, lying. They're probably going to put somebody else on there. And guess what they're going to do? Probably start lying, right? That's why I was saying I had made a post talking about how that stuff is just, it's just entertainment. You know, they had what? Jasmine Crockett, curse out old girl. Cool, right? Entertainment. Because we got to understand, rich people don't go to, in this country, rich don't go to jail. The rich don't go to prison here, right? Unless they made somebody mad, right? So it says, in the hold of every foul spirit. So that's what's here. It's a habitation of devils in the hold of every foul spirit. Look at the wickedness and the things that these people do, right? Going back to the Epstein stuff, right? Look at the stuff that they do. Look at what they call satanic Hollywood, right? Look at the stuff that this people just do. The spirit of, not even, we ain't got to look at celebrities and all that. Just look at the average, person, the spirit, right? And how they get down, how we treat one another, right? And that's this place, because it says, Babylon is fallen and is fallen. It become the habitation of devils, the hold of every foul spirit. So every wicked spirit is here in this place, right? That's why if you got eyes to see, you can see how wicked this place that they call America is, right? How satanic and evil and perverse and against, everything that God wants us to do, in their philosophies, their customs, their way of life that they push, right? It says, habitation of devils, the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of unclean and hateful bird. Meaning the wicked spirits, all the little demons love to hang out here, right? Like, what was that movie, Janky Promoters, when Mike Epps' character was like, man, Modesto, this is where all the gangsters come to where the gangsters come to hide out at. Where the gangsters come to retire. What do you say? Something like where the gangsters come to when they on the run, right? So that's America. America is where all the evil spirits, all the demonic evil spirits come to hang out at, right? Where they go. This is their Epstein Island. This is all the evil spirits Epstein Island. This place called America. And it says, just get real quick. Let's get Psalm 73 real quick. Is it 70? Was it? Let's see, boom. All right, okay, here we go. You can start at 73 and 9. Psalm 73 and 9. All right, let's start at 8. Because this place, like I said, it says they are corrupt. And that's what this government is. This whole government system is corrupt. It's built off of corruption. This whole nation is built off corruption. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. This place speak wickedly concerning oppression. We've been talking about no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Since the 60s, right? Since the 50s, right? Been marching, the whole everything, right? And what do? And speak wickedly concerning oppression. That's what they do, right? Think about this. The Asians, right? The Asians, right? They got when Joe Biden was president, they got a Stop Asian Hate bill, right? And I don't really quite remember or seen any type of uh, exponential racial hatred towards any Asian people since I've been around, right? To the point where they need a separate law to protect them. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe they're going down to Chinatown and they're I don't know. But I do know black people been wanting to, a law to stop lynching, to make lynching, a hate crime, and all these other laws that we've been trying to get for protection, right? I do know that. And we've been doing that since they let us off the plantation. But these guys, I mean, without a fight, without a picket sign, without a billy club against their head, without a dog being sicked on them. I mean, probably because they ate them, but they get a bill, right? It's crazy. I don't know. So it says they are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak lawfully, meaning they speak proudly. They speak proudly about how they treat us. They be like, well, that was a long time ago. That was, get over it. Pull yourself up by your boots, right? But when stuff happened to them, they want the whole world to stop, right? You got other nations, also recognizing America's 4th of July, right? That's crazy, right? And they still celebrate their 4th of July. They're gonna do their little September 11 stuff, this year, right? They're gonna do all of that, right? But they are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. So when it comes to black and brown oppression, they don't care. They don't want to hear that stuff, right? They didn't start caring about what ICE was doing until it started happening to them. And we said this before. We said white people would never understand what black and brown people go through until it started happening to them. When the police started treating them like N-words, like a bunch of noggles, then they're going to start understanding. Then they're going to be like, well, he didn't do anything. He didn't reach for no gun. Like, why would they shoot him like that? Why would they shoot her like that? She didn't try to run nobody over. Then they're going to start to understand what we go through every day, right? That's crazy, right? That's the extremity that the Most High God had to bring these people to, because they have no remorse, they have no empathy, unless it's something that involves them, because they can't see pain unless it's something that affects them, right? They don't understand it. And the fact that the Most High God had to bring calamity after calamity onto these people to get them to recognize, right? Like, wow, this is not cool, right? They wasn't, when police was, and they still doing it, I don't think they're not doing it. When on the news with unarmed black people getting shot by the police, it wasn't no outcry. It wasn't out in the streets. My hometown was on the news for this ICE stuff. They all in the streets going crazy. I never seen those many people in my life, defend anything. And I'm from that place. I'm like, where all these people come from? Right? I'm like, because when it started happening to them, because what happened, I think some white guy ended up getting hit in the head a couple of times and got arrested. So everybody was all up in the uproar, right? So then, it gets crazy, right? That's what they care about. Because it tells us over here, they are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak lofty, meaning they speak proudly too. they set their mouth against the heavens, meaning they don't follow God. They don't have their religion is not your religion. Their Christianity is not your Christianity. Your Christianity tell you to forgive and forget. Their Christianity tell them get in a fighter jet and go bomb a whole nation and kill innocent children and women over there. That's what their Christianity tells them to do, right? They're not a God-fearing person. They don't read this thing like you read it and understand it, right? So they set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walked through the earth. And how do their tongue walk through the earth? Their propaganda, right? What's the name? Who was I talking to? I wasn't talking to nobody. I listened to these two foreigners talk about America, and before they came here, right? And they was talking about how hearing about America, the propaganda of how great America is and how you can come here and be successful and change your life, right? So that's how their tongue walks through the earth, right? They go through they put their philosophies and their ideologies on these other nations and make them get down or lay down, right? And they put their military on every dang old country around the world, right? They got 700 and something military bases all around the world, right? Because it says they set their mouth against the heavens because they think they're God. That's why they have that God complex, that superiority complex. And their tongue walked through the earth because of their military prowess is everywhere. If they want something done, they got the military power to make it happen. That's why, number 47 talking about, since I'm the president of Venezuela, we're going to do great things in Venezuela. Got the oil, going to do great things, baby. Right? He can talk like that. He can say, Canada's the 51st state. I'm going to call the governor of Canada. This guy's the president of Canada, the prime minister of Canada, of a whole sovereign nation. But no, the 51st state, Canada look really nice. That's the 51st state. I'm going to go call the governor. Right? Because what do? It says, they set their mouth against heaven and their tongue walked through the earth. That's why you can talk about the way they talk and talk about going against, the NATO treaty about Greenland and all they partners, like, they don't know what to do, right? They're going to do something because the Bible tells us, but they don't know what to do because it says they set their mouth against the heavens and their tongue walked through the earth. Therefore his people returned hither. The waters is full. The waters of a full cup wrung out to them. They say and they say, how do God know? And that's what they think. They think they can just do whatever God, like, how do God know? Right? God don't know what we're doing. They think he's not paying attention, right? That's why they come up with all these different philosophies and religions to try to confuse everybody, right? Because in their heart of hearts, they say, what do they say? They say, how do of God know? And is their knowledge in the Most High? You're like, look, how do God know? And is there any wisdom in serving this God? That's how they feel because they think they are God, right? They don't follow God. Their God is oil and money. That's what their God is. Oil and money. That's what they worship, right? Oil, money, and perverseness. That's what their God is, right? And it says, behold, these things are ungodly to who prosper in the world. They okay, boom, boom, boom. All right. So yeah, that's how they feel, right? They feel like they are, they pompous, right? They feel like they are the Most High, and they speak wickedly concerning oppression. So let's go back over here to Thessalonians 5, right? And let's get back over here. So verse 4, and it says, but brethren, 5 and 4, but brethren, are are not darkness that day should overtake you as a thief. So again, when people least suspect it, that's when everything is going to go awry. Because even in our own personal lives, how the Most High God, tend to pass judgment on us. You know, sometimes, a lot of times everything can be perfect, everything great. Then all of a sudden, all hell just break loose in your life. And you're like, damn, where all this stuff come from? Everything was cool, right? I was on the road, right? Because like verse like verse 3 say, when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction come. So again, that's not just necessarily talking about this coming war, but also in our lives too. When we think we got away with something, or we think that after we did so much wrong, we think everything's cool. But then in our peace and safety, that's when trouble always come and find us oftentimes. Right? So back over here it says, but ye brethren are not in darkness, that the day should overtake you as a thief. And we're not going to be in darkness, right? Because we're reading through these prophecies and we're breaking it down, we're understanding, right? Because we got the playbook, right? So we understand when we look and see certain things happening around the world, and we understand the prophecies, we see where we at in this timeline, right? Of course, we're not going to be able to narrow it down to this day, this time, this hour, but we can see the signs. Because like Christ said, to watch for the signs. Just like how you can look at the sky and tell if it's going to rain or whatever, Christ said, if you can look at, be able to look at the sky and do all that, tell the weather, then you should be able to look at the world and see what's going on and see, that time is short, right? So you gotta have that same understanding. Because just like, because back then, they didn't have like what we got, meteorologists and stuff. They got the little special satellites and stuff that can gauge the weather. They can tell you about the weather like days on, out, right? Back then they had to use natural instinct and looking at the nature and cloud formation and the coloration of the sky to figure the weather out. So Christ was like, if you got skills to do that, then you should be able to look at the world and see the condition that it's in and where it's going, right? So then it says, therefore let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. And that's what we do. We don't be sleep, because sometimes we get caught up in our, everyday lives that we don't, take time, to worship the Most High and see what's going on, right? Understand these prophecies, right? And and see where we at, and try to understand this. And it says, therefore let us not sleep as others, and let us watch and be sober. So don't be asleep and be lost in the sauce, don't know what's going on. Then when stuff start going crazy, you don't know what to do because you done spent your whole life looking this way when you should have been looking that way. You know what I mean? So you gotta be cool with it. Then it says, for they that sleep in night, and they that be drunken are drunken in night. So meaning, some people are just knocked out cold, right? And you're not gonna be able to wake them up because the Most High God got some people just blinded. Some people he got blinded, but then he's going to take the scales off their eyes and they're going to be able to see the truth. But some people, they're just going to not get it. And that's just how he designed it, We can read about it in Isaiah, I believe 28 or 29. And Christ also speaks about it. Let's get Habakkuk, Habakkuk 2 and 5 real quick. Let's get Habakkuk 2 and 5. So Habakkuk 2:5 says this. And still talking about these people, and it says, yeah, also because he transgressed. Let's start at 4, because we gotta let's start at 4. So we gotta understand these people, because like I said, that's what they do. You know, they don't, although they may carry this book and have all these different denominations, and they, you know, create, you know, fake like they in some type of religion, they don't believe in God. Okay, I'm just trying to tell you, and it's I know that's a bold statement, right? Because I know, oh no, sir, it's Master good white folk, he good Christian folk. I seen Master folk. No, I won't believe that now. So I understand, right? I get it, but they don't follow this book, right? Because it tells us, behold, his soul which is lifted up, meaning the spirit that God created them to be, the spirit that he put in these people. Because all nations have a certain spirit, a certain vibration that the Most High God created us to be, right? We all got our own little special talents and nits and gifts and stuff. That's what make the whole world great, right? But these people, behold, his soul which is lifted up, meaning the spirit that God put in them, is not upright, meaning it's not a good spirit that they have, right? And we see through history, we don't need to read this. We can close the book and we can look through history and see what they have done. And it says, and not just to us, but to the world. Like they said, to the world, Craig, the world, not just the city, the world, right? And it says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him. But the just, which is the Israelites, which us, shall live by faith. Because we live by our faith. These people don't have no faith. They live for the moment. That's why they got that, what's that, live fast and die young, right? They came up with that, That's their slogan, live fast and die young, right? And we just act it out, Our people act it out. That's why a lot of our people end up, dying at a young age, right? So it says, now that's the point. Yeah, he also, because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man. So now it's not talking about wine like alcohol, liquor. It's talking about through their philosophies, their culture, their way of life that they propagate throughout the world. If you are familiar with Alexander the Great was so enamored by his own culture, the Greek way of life. He said, hey, I'm going to put an army together and go kill everybody and make them follow what I do, right? Because it says he is a proud man. It says also because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man. So that wine is his philosophies. Because just like when you look into Alexander, he thought the Greek culture was so great, so cold, everybody need to learn how to be Greeks. And he believed it so much that Alexander the Great went and conquered the whole known world and forced everybody to be Hellenistic, right? That's how much they believe in their way of life, right? And that's what he did. It says he also, because he transgressed by wine, meaning their philosophies, their culture that they propagate, push on the world, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. So they don't stay at home. They don't stay where they originated from. They in every country messing with everybody, telling them what to do. Right? Because he transgressed by wine. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges desires as hell. So everywhere he go, hell follows him. Right? Like they are like the bad news bears wherever they go, right? And again, this is not just our opinion. We can look through the history almanac and look at their starting point as a people and what they have done. We can do that, right? And it's there to see, right? So it's not our opinion that we're just saying these things. They know this stuff, right? And they proud. And we know they proud because they put it in their history books. They teach it to us in their schools. right? And they teach it to us like it's some type of achievement. But anybody with a good heart, a good sense of humanity, a sense of, you know, empathy and love for anybody can see that we're reading about a genocidal people that went around the world that they teach us in school to be American history, right? It says, he who enlarges his desires as hell, because everywhere they go, they destroy everything. And it says, who enlarges his desire as hell in death, because they came here, 80 million of Native Americans gone. They went to Africa to bring us over here, then there are 200 million of us gone, right? They went to Canada. God knows how many they done took out in Canada, because, you know, our brothers was up there too. South America took them out, right? Everywhere they go. Australia, New Zealand, Europe, because they're not even from Europe. You want to know the truth about it? Everywhere they go. You cannot name one place they went where they got along and everybody was peaceful and prosperous and they just mashed together. They don't work like that. They're not how they say in the corporate world, they don't play nice together, right? They're not friendly to other people. And history proves that. That's not our opinion, right? It says, and cannot be satisfied. They don't be satisfied. That's why they're still here, still raping, robbing the land until this place is destroyed and polluted. Everywhere they go, it's like they toxify it. Everything. The water gets poor. The animals die. The air gets polluted. Right? That's what they do. It says, and it cannot be satisfied, but gather unto him all nations. That's what they do. They gather to them all nations. That's why they got military bases all over the world. Right? What other country does that? What other country has that? And it says, and heap unto him all people. And that's what they do. They gather all the people, try to make everybody come and follow their way. Just like their ancestor Alexander the Great did. Right? That's what they do. Let's go back. So then, let's go to Wisdom of Solomon real quick. Wisdom of Solomon 17. Wisdom of Solomon 17 and 14, right? And it says, but they sleep in the same sleep that night, which was indeed intolerable, and which came upon them out of the bottomless invitable hell. So sometimes people are so wicked that God sometimes sends evil spirits to visit them at night and torture them as they lay, right? And some of us, experience these things. Sometimes, some of us have certain demons that we fighting, that we're going through, and then as we're fighting these demons, they don't want to go. So some of these demons don't want to let you go, and they do whatever they can to stay, even if they actually have to show themselves to you. They will stay, right? And sometimes people are not strong enough to fight against those things, and this happens. We're partly vexed with monstrous apparitions, and partly faint, their heart failing them for sudden fear, not looking came upon them. So sometimes, it can see a little ghostly apparition that can terrify you to the point like, oh, dang, that was a spirit or something I saw, right? You can be going through some stuff, and it's so terrifying and so haunting, right? Because, like I said, sometimes people will be battling certain demons, and they might have, certain vices that they're trying to cut out and stuff, and it's being, some people are not strong enough to fight it, right? And they give in to those things. And it says, so then whosoever there fall down was straightly kept shut up in prison without iron bars. So you try to control yourself, like, okay, I got this habit, so maybe if I can do this and do that. So, in your weakness, because you don't know, but you're just trying, right? You don't know, but you try to say, all right, I'm going to do this, right? Like a drug addict. Like a drug addict might say, all right, I'm going to stop doing drugs, but then they might still hang out around other drug addicts. Then they end up going back into doing drugs again. So when it says shut up and in prison without iron bars, meaning he trying to control that, fight that demon that's on you, that's causing you to do X, Y, Z, whatever habit it may be, whatever you're fighting. And you try to get a wraps of it, but you don't quite lock it up quite. And then it resurfaces again, right? And you're like, dang, now I'm back down this path again, right? Because you didn't quite do what you needed to do to get rid of that spirit, to lock it up. Then it says, for what he husband or labor, let me read it right. It says, for whether he were husband or shepherd or laborer in a field, he was overtaken and endured that necessary, which could not be avoided, for they were all bound with one chain of darkness. So again, you try to take all your problems and you try to think you can just fix it and you just, or you can just forget about it, just tuck it away, right? So just like taking what it says. It says, for whether he were husband or shepherd or labor in a field, he was overtaken. So no matter if this person is a leader of other men, and he's the boss, or it could be the shepherd, right? It could be or the laborer, a worker, meaning, people that's in all different walks of life have different things that they're going through, right? Different spirits that they're all battling, right? But then it says he was overtaken and endured that was necessary. So then again, so some people, when they fighting certain things that they're going through, they fall victim to it, and then they don't overcome that thing that they're going through. And so let's get this real quick. Matthew 13. Because that's the thing and you want to build yourself up spiritually so you can have a solid foundation. So when hard times do come, or when you are going through certain things, you can have that spiritual strength to get yourself out of it and be around good brothers and good sisters that can also help you, go through certain things, right? So Matthew 13 and 18. And it say this. It says, this is Christ talking to the disciples. And it says, Hear therefore the parable of the sower. And it says, it's a parable of the sower. And it says, and when anyone hear the word of the kingdom and understand not, then come the wicked one to cast away which was sowed in his heart. This is which received the seed by the wayside. So as you're trying to grow into this truth, right, and then you're trying to increase in knowledge, you're gonna have Satan, come and try to distract and send people, towards your way. It could be a loved one, it could be a friend, it could be anything, right, that distracts you. And then if you're not on solid foundation, then you're going to be like, you know what, man, forget this stuff, man. This stuff is all bullshit. I'm going to do whatever, right? And then you might fall out of the truth, right? Because you didn't have a solid foundation. It says, when one heareth the word of the kingdom and understand not, when then come the wicked one. So you're learning, but you're not quite understanding what you're learning. Then here comes somebody like, man, that's some. Why you listen to that stuff? Like, man, that's some bull. Then you be like, then you by you not being fully learned, you be like, all right, okay, maybe this person is right. And now you done lost, your chance of salvation listening to a evil spirit that was put on that person, right? Then it says, then come the wicked one to cast away which was sown in his heart. So although you may be struggling with the information that you got, but then here comes some person to come in and just knock you off the square totally. Now you back on square one, because oftentimes people will say, well, this is wrong, that's wrong, oh, that ain't right, but then they never tell you what's right. So you're going to try to take away something from me and don't give me something else. And that's what a lot of times people do. Because then you be like, okay, well, this is wrong, then what is it? Well, I don't know what it is, but I know that ain't right. So you're going to tell me something ain't right and don't give me something to replace it with? Then what type of teacher are you? So you just trying to scoff and just knock me off my square because you're not trying to teach, right? You're not trying to help. And we got to watch out for stuff like that. And it says, and this was received seed. This was received seed by the wayside, and he that received the seed unto the stony place, the same is he that heardeth the word, and anon joy received it, and yet not rooted himself, but endure for a while. So then you have people that get the truth, and they might be excited. You're like, oh yeah, this is the truth. I'm finally learning the truth. And then as time go on, maybe they thought their life was going to get great and change because now they done learned the truth now. But then they realize, well shit, I still got hell in my life. Well shit, I still got these problems and this happening. And then they start to let the problems of the world distract them. Then they fall out of the truth and they stop reading and doing the things that they're supposed to do, right? And it says, and yet he's not rooted himself, but endure for a while. But for when tribulation or persecution arises, because of the word, by he is offended. So then all of a sudden somebody come, a little trouble come in your life, a little this, and now you cursing out God. You blaming God. Oh God, you whatever. I heard people curse out God before, right? It's crazy, but people do it, right? So now you're blaming God because you wasn't on solid foundation, right? And now you don't believe in God. Now you're calling yourself an atheist because you wanted something and you didn't get it, and so now it's it's F God and it's no God because he didn't do what I asked him to do, right? And it says, he also that received the seed among them, among the thorns, he that heard the word and the cares of the world and deceitfulness and rich. Hold on, let me read it right. It says, also he also that received the seed among the thorns is he that heard the word and the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choked the word, and he became unfaithful. So then you have people that just have some might have this ungodly natures to them. So then sometimes they get the truth, right? And then as they get the truth, then they end up misusing it and then abusing it, because it says right, boom boom boom. It says the seed was sown among thorns. He that heard the word and the cares of the world and And the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word. So meaning, like I said, he let the, because sometimes people will be living, a street life or whatever type of life. I'm using that for example. But then they might know the truth, but then they end up, just want to be a thug for the rest of their life. Even like with athletes, we see that with athletes. Like an athlete can be a D1 athlete, right? But then, they want to go, you know, into a 7-Eleven and rob the 7-Eleven, or they want to, be on a block and be, selling a whole bunch of drugs. And then they end up losing their scholarship or, not, going into the league because of that. Because they let the outside influence, stop them from, achieving what they was doing. And that happens to a lot of people. So it says, "In the cares of the world, of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches choked the word, and he became unfaithful." So, 'cause a lot of times, people can get caught up in this world. Like Mike Epps got a joke that he told a long time ago. He like, "I want to give my life to God, but I got to get this money first." Right? And a lot of people be thinking that. They be like, "I got to get my life to God, but I got to get this money first." Right? Then it says, "But he that received the seed unto good ground is he that heard the word and understand it, which also bear the fruit and bring forth some 100-fold and 60 and 30. So then you got those that will hear the truth and then they will apply it to their life. And then they can see the fruits of, doing thus saith the Lord and doing and keeping the commandments, right? And then people that's around them, they can also see the fruit, right? And then you'll be able to grow in the knowledge because that seed wasn't sown on bad soil or stony soil or where the thorns and stuff at. It was sown on good soil and good foundation so that seed can grow and be a mighty tree, right? A mighty tree of knowledge. But he that received the seed unto good ground is he that heareth the word and understandeth it, which also beareth fruit and bring forth some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. Right? And what that means is because God give everybody, certain spiritual gifts, right? Some he give a lot because he expect them to do a lot. Some he give a little because he know what the people can handle, right? So, that's why it says 100-fold, 60, 30, right? Because everybody, putting in a brick, so some people work might be more, extensive than others, right? Because it's a reason why it's called, you got the prophets, then you have something called what they call the minor prophets. Because there's some books in here like Obadiah. It's only one chapter long, right? Because the work that the Most High God had for Obadiah wasn't the same work that he had for Isaiah, who got like 50-something chapters, 60-something chapters, right? So it depends, right? So back over here. But you gotta make sure you're on a solid foundation. So back to Thessalonians. And it's saying, boom, 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 boom. Oh, let's get Isaiah 53 real quick before we get back. Isaiah 53. Isaiah 53 and 3 says, "He is despised and rejected of men, sorrow and acquaintance with grief, and he that laid, and he that and we hid as it were our faces from him." Okay, hold on. Okay, now that ain't. No, we don't need that one right now. Okay, that's something else. So then 51. My bad. I'm tripping. Yeah, 51. My bad. I said 53. 51 in verse 3. See? Blame the yeah, that's what's happening. But you gotta blame the public schools, right? But no, 51 in verse 3. So it says, "For the Lord shall comfort Zion, and he will comfort all her waste places. And he will make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and a voice of melody." Right? And that's what's happening when the Most High God gather his people back to the land. It's going to be a peaceful time because we're not going to have to deal with these devils no more. We ain't going to have these people, on our back like that. Right? Let's get the book of Job real quick. So let's get Job 1 and 16. So just read this one more time though. It says hold up. It says, hold on, I read this back again in Isaiah 51. It says, "For the Lord shall comfort Zion and will comfort all her waste places, and he shall make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of the Lord. And joy and gladness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and a voice of melody." So, like I said, he's going to restore the land, restore the people. And we're not going to no longer have to worry about the troubles and the ills that we go through where, we don't know what day to day may happen, right? And just living in turmoil and then have to suffer losses of family members or, stuff like that. We're not going to have to, go through, stuff like this, like our dear brother Job right here. This is Job 1 and 6, 1 and 16. So it says, Job 1 and 16, "While yet he was speaking, there come also another and said, Fire of God has fallen from heaven and have burnt up the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and I only escape alone." And while he was yet speaking, another also said, "The Chaldeans made out with 3 bands and fell upon the camel and have carried them away and slain the servants with the edge of the sword. Only I escaped." And while he was yet speaking, there also came another, said, "Thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And behold, there came a wind from the wilderness and smote the 4 corners of the house and fell upon the young men, and they are dead. Only I escaped along with to tell thee." Then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell upon the ground and worship. So, the point is, when, Job was having a hard time and like back to back, one after another. So that's how a lot of times in our life, we have trouble that seem to go back to back, one after another, one after another. So then Job, as he's going through all these different heartaches, one after another, it said, and what did it say? Boom, boom, boom. It said, then Job arose, rent his mantle, shaved his head, fell down upon the ground and worship. So meaning he was in a state of, mourning, depressed, and then he, prayed about it, right? But in that day, the Most High God is going to hear our prayers, and it also says that we're not even going to have to actually pray. We can just think it, and it's going to be done. The Bible says before we even say it, He's going to do it. We're not going to have to go through these random acts of violence or unsuspected things that happen in our life, just like we can read about Job account, right? So we're not going to have to go through those things in that day. So back over here. Back to Thessalonians. And it says, but let us who are of the day be sober, putting on a breastplate of faith and love for the helmet of hope of salvation. So you got to be prayed up. You got to build up your spiritual body to withstand the ills of this world, right? Because a lot of times we be weak in our flesh when certain things happen, and because the spirit always wrestle with the flesh all the time between right and wrong, and what we should do and what we shouldn't be doing. But think about the spirit body like an actual body. You have to tone and put muscle on and build up to make it strong, right? Because your flesh body is tough. It's built. It's tough. It's like it can be in a strongman competition, right? Your flesh body, because how old you are, you've been putting muscle and mixing protein shakes and coming up with even putting, some of y'all probably been using steroids, right? You're juicing, right, on your fleshly body. So a lot of times you end up succumbing to your temptations and lusts when in your spirit, when you know that you should not do such a thing, right? So that's why it's important to build up the spiritual body, so you can have that strength. So whenever you are tempted or feel tempted to do certain things, that spiritual body can be strong enough to fight off the fleshly body, right? If that makes sense. So it says, but let us who are of the day be sober, putting on a breastplate of faith and love, and for the helmet of hope of salvation. For God has not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Lord Jesus Christ. So, and that's what we do, and through keeping the faith of the Mashiach Yahweh Shai, who the world calls Jesus Christ, and the commandments, we obtain that salvation, right? Who died for us, that whether we wake or sleep, we will live together with him, right? That's the hope. It says, then, and right here when it says, who died for us, whether wake or asleep, we should live together with him. So now this this sleep is not the same sleep that we read earlier about being spiritually asleep. Now this sleep is talking about death, because Israelites, we don't die. We go to sleep. Like it told David. When David was about to die, God told David, you go the way of your fathers. You're going to go sleep with your fathers. So we don't die. We go to sleep. Right? And so, and it says, who died for us, whether we wake or sleep. So now this sleep is talking about those of us that, kept the faith in the faith in the commandments in the Mashiach. It's a reward for them, even though they might not be living when Christ come back, but they're probably dead and gone, but they're going to get their reward too as, Christ come back, right? So it says, wherefore comfort yourselves together and edify one another, even as ye do. So and that's the thing, as we see all hell breaking loose across the world, we supposed to be comforting each other, edifying each other, building each other up, right? Because, like I said, it gets rough, right? It's going to get rough. And it's going to get crazy. You're going to see some things that you probably never saw before. You're going to have to do some things that you never thought you might have to do before in a civilized world, right? But this time it's not going to be civilized, right? It's not going to be no rule of law when this stuff is going down. The rule of law is you living to see the next day. That's going to be the rule of law in that day, right? So we're going to need each other, right? It says, comfort yourselves together and edify one another. Also, also ye do, right? So that's what we got to do. We got to comfort and edify one another as often as we do, as we see each other. Because a lot of times we have a problem with bigging up each other and giving each other props and letting each other know that you did a good job. That was great. You are very good, right? We have a problem with giving each other props because how we say, is, they say glazing, dick riding, right? Or whatever, right? So, and we don't want to seem like we kissing nobody but. So oftentimes we have a problem with, bigging up each other and, letting each other know that we respect each other, right? So that's why it says, wherefore comfort yourselves together and edify one another as also ye do, right? And that's what we got to do. So we can go to Zephaniah 2:1 real quick. And it say, gather yourselves together. Yeah, gather yourselves together. O nation not desire, right? So we have to gather ourselves together because we are that nation that's not desired, right? Look what they're doing to us on the news. They don't want us here, right? Every other country we go to, they have a racial slur to call us, to identify us as, right? No matter what country, any 7 continent you go to, right? Anyone, they have a way to call you the N-word, right? It says, gather yourselves together, O nation not desire. Just like it says over here. Wherefore comfort yourselves together and edify one another as also ye do. Gather yourselves together, O nation not desire, before the Lord, before the decree bring forth, before the day pass, as chaff before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you. Right? So we have to gather ourselves together. That's God requiring us to come together as a people, as a nation, right? Because God is going to come and destroy this place. And you don't want to get caught up in that. Because we got to understand that, the God we serve. Because, and I use this example a lot, like God is coming to spray the block with a shotgun. He coming with a shotgun with a switch on it, right? If that makes sense. Because a sniper rifle is more precise. You have certain guns that are very precise. If you want to hit a target, you can hit that target. But a shotgun is not for precision, right? And that's what he got. When he coming down the block, and the block is the world, and he's riding in a Lolo, and the Lolo is his chariot, right? And he got a shotgun with a switch, right? I don't know if that's humanly possible, but that's what he got. And again, shotgun bullets, they spread. They come out and they spread out, right? So they're not as precise as a typical gun, right? So if you out there on the block and he coming through in that low 6'4", right, riding around with Doughboy in them, and you out there, you will get hit. That's why he tell you, gather yourselves together, O nation not desired, before the decree bring forth, before the day of the chaff, before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you. Because he's like, look, if you out there when I'm out there, I'm gonna think you a op. You gotta be a op. Because I told you I'm coming to spray the whole block. And you out there on the block. So you gotta be a op. So it says, gather yourselves together, O nation not desired, before the Lord bring forth, as the chaff before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you. So we got to gather ourselves together, right? Come back to our culture, our laws, statutes, and commandments, right? Because so we won't get destroyed with the rest of these people, right? Because we're not keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments. So back over here, right? So it says, and I beseech you, brethren, to know them which labor among you. So, look at your people that's your inner circle, your ace spoon coons, right? The ones you go to war with, right? The ones that you will, put to your right hand and say, I got his back and he got mine, right? The like what's that Forrest Gump what Bubba told Forrest, like, hey Forrest, you lean up against me and I lean up against you, and that way we won't have to sleep with our heads in the mud, right? Somebody like that, right? That you got your back, right? So you won't have to sleep with your head in the mud, right? So I beseech you, brethren, to know them that labor among you. So know the people that's around you. Know the people that's putting in work. Know the people that you can depend on and rely on that's around you. Good brothers, good sisters that you know, right? And it says, that labor among you and are over you, and are over you in Lord. And, people that, because a lot of times, people, because you had to, people that you respect, and that like if you have a problem, or you could get advice from, right? So you mark those people that what it says and are over you in Lord, because Lord just means Adawan. Adawan, just like saying sir. We say today, hey, how you doing, sir? Right? So Adawan and Lord in Hebrew is Adawan. And then just because you see the word Lord, it doesn't, although in the New Testament, the word Lord in capital letters is to, talk about the Most High, but in layman's terms, the word Lord is Adawan, and it just means just saying sir, just a way of showing respect to a person when you're talking to them, right? So someone that you respect, someone that's a lord over you, could be like how we say in the hood, our OG, OG of the hood that we respect, and they can talk to us, right? So you mark those people that you can trust like that, and it says and admonish you, and esteem them very high in love for their work's sake. So then you praise them. You let them know that you appreciate how they've been an influence in your life, and they're you see what they're doing. They're you see how they working hard. They taking care of their family. They doing this. Whatever the case may be, right? So don't feel like, oh well, I don't want to look like I'm kissing this person butt, or I don't want to look like I'm over here how they say glazing and stuff, right? No, it's cool to give people their props if you see them doing well, right? A lot of times people will be like, oh man, oh you just trying to, you over there just glazing or whatever, right? And they try to make you feel bad for, giving somebody else their props and, recognizing, the good that they're doing, right? So don't be that. And it says, to esteem them very high in love for their work's sake. So why all hell is breaking loose, like I said, we're supposed to come together, encourage one another, because it's gonna be hell, all over everywhere. And like I said, you're gonna see some things you probably never saw before that you only suspect to see on a movie. You're gonna do some things that you probably never done before. And I ain't talking about no sexual stuff neither, that you only saw on a movie, right? It's gonna be some make or break times during that day. And you're gonna need some allies, right? Some brothers and sisters that you can trust, right? And it says, and esteem them very high in love for their work's sake, and be peace and be at peace among yourselves. Meaning, make sure your inner circle tight. It ain't no turmoil. There ain't got no dissension. Everybody getting along, right? If it's problems, y'all swash it out. Y'all handle those problems amongst yourselves, right? You don't let it get to a point where, oh, I can't stand that dude, like whatever. You don't let it get to that point. You keep your circle tight, right? And it says, now we exhort you, brethren, warn them that are unruly comfort the feeble, comfort the feeble-minded, support the weak, be patient towards all men. Right. So it says, now we exhort you, brethren, warn them that are unruly. So you might have some disrespectful people that you might have to put in place. You might have to check them, right? And there's nothing wrong with putting people in a place if they're unruly. The Bible also says, the mouth of a fool, his reward is strikes. Meaning, sometimes you have to hit somebody in their mouth sometime. If they get too disrespectful, they out of line, sometimes you might have to pop them. The Bible's not against that, right? They tell us we can do that if that's what it might have to take. So it says, now we exhort you, brethren, warn them that are unruly. Meaning, you see somebody out of line, you check them, let them know, hey, yo, you're unruly. This is what the Most High God expects us to do. This is what we need to be doing as a people. This is how we should carry ourselves, right? If we're going to be kings and priests of this world, we have to act and behave a certain type of way, right? And then it says, comfort the feeble-minded. So, because some people are, not as mentally strong as others. Some people, they worry easy. Some people, they get depressed, about whatever. Some people, any little thing can get them down, or maybe they might not quite fully understand certain things as well. You might have to take a little more time to explain it to them and make sure nobody's taking advantage of them because they don't have the proper understanding. So you have to, deal with that person a certain type of way, right? Then it says, and support the weak, and support people that can't help themselves. Because some people can't defend themselves, right? Some people don't have the words to say to somebody to defend themselves, right? I had a friend that contacted me not too long ago, and they were dealing with something, and they had called me up, and as they was handling their thing, they felt relieved and cool to have me on the phone on the other end as they dealt what they dealt with, because in their own words, it gave them strength and courage to handle that issue that they was handling at the time. And of course, I thought that was cool that the person thought of me like that, and that's how we have to be with each other, right? To the point that we can help each other in that way, so a person can feel encouraged just by you just being a presence, right? So it says, support the weak and the patient, and be patient towards all men. And we got to be patient with people, and because especially our own people, we are so traumatically destroyed, and a lot of bad history with us, right? And we got to a point where we develop distrust among ourselves, to where we are evil towards one another, right? Instead of actually want to comfort each other, understanding that we all in this prison planet together, right? We all got the same warden, the same CO, and we all getting beat over the head. And once we understand that, then we can see why this person is jacked up, why that person is jacked up, why this person is this way. Then once we understand that, then we can have patience and be like, you know what? I know you're not really that angry at me. You got something else going on in your life that causing you to speak like this with me. Maybe can we just try to see if we can, psychoanalyze these problems so we can fix these things, right? So then it says, and see that none render evil for evil unto any man, right? And that's how you should be in your circle, right? You should make sure we all respect each other. We're not going to harm each other. Like if someone do something wrong to each other, we're going to eradicate the situation. We're going to fix it. We're going to squash it. It ain't going to be no eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. We're going to fix it, right? Because we're going to be brotherly about this thing. We're going to be sisterly about this thing, right? So we're gonna be, do this thing right. And it says, see that none render evil for evil unto any man, but ever follow which is good, both among yourselves and to all men. Right? And that's how we to treat one another, right? And because if we're keeping the commandments, and the commandments is the love of God, then by default we're gonna be good to one another, right? And then it says, rejoice evermore, pray without ceasing. And that's what we need to do. We have to stay in the spirit of, rejoicing, because we understand that the end is near. We're in a 2-minute warning. And, it's 2-minute warning. So we have to rejoice. And it says, pray without ceasing. And, stay in a state of prayer. Ask for, strength, for God can strengthen you on your spiritual walk. Ask to, so you won't have, to guide you and all that stuff, right? And because, like I said, you gotta pray for the strength and wisdom to carry you through these things that may occur, in your life, right? So it says, pray without ceasing, and everything give thanks, for this is the will of Yahweh and the Mashiach Yahweh Shai concerning you. So we give thanks to everything, because you got to understand, everybody say, yeah, God, he's the head of my life. Without him, I can't do anything. But then we don't really mean that, right? Because we don't understand that God is in control of every single thing. Everything, whether you call it good or bad, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't happen unless he say it happens. And so it says, in everything, give thanks. So when you do good, because a lot of times people, you go to college, you get you a degree, master done gave me a degree and told me I'm smart now. I'm smart. So now you get your degree, you're smart now, right? So instead of, you put more emphasis and praise on that university and that doctrine that you got, rather than saying, the Most High God gave me this brain to think and to operate so I can accomplish great things. He deserved the credit, although but we don't look at it like that, because we don't understand that all wisdom, all knowledge, whatever, it comes from the Most High God, right? And then, but we don't give credit in all things. Whenever we accomplish something great, we always say, then we got this stuff that we say, we got it out the mud, right? And now it sounds cool to say, yeah, I got it out the mud. It sounds cool. I ain't gonna front. It does sound nice, especially if you put it in a rap song. Rapper rap about getting it out the mud. It sounds dope. I ain't gonna front. But it's also a selfish, self-worshiping comment if you take it, and break it down. Because it says, give thanks to all things. It says, in all things give thanks, right? It says, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. Quench not the spirit. Meaning, don't get pervasive where, be like, all right, okay, I read this book. Okay, that's it. I got it now. Yeah, where that? I'm done. I'm ready for the world now. This is an everlasting learning thing, right? You never stop learning when you pick up this book. Sometimes we hear stuff and we feel like we got it figured out, right? And then we don't, and then we leave it alone. Like, all right, I got it now, right? Just like how we treat the Bible like how we treat instructions, from IKEA, right? We get us a furniture from IKEA. We like, okay, what does this say? You look at the instructions. Matter of fact, we look at the pictures. We're like, all right. You look at the picture. Like, I think I got it. Throw the instructions away. The damn thing is upside down, crooked, screws missing. Then somebody like, hey, well, where the instructions at? You like, well, just shit. I threw them away. Right? That's how we treat the Bible, right? And we shouldn't do that. Because it says, quench not the spirit. Right? So you always got to be constantly building on what you know. Because, you got to understand. If you understand any of this, that is a blessing, because God is not giving this understanding to each and everybody. It's a reason why people can read this book and come up with a million different things. It's 40,000 different branches of Christianity. 40,000. I'm not just throwing a number out there. It's actually more. I think I saw 45,000 different versions of Christianity. Out of this one book, they came up with 40,000 different ways. Crazy, right? That's what they did. But it says, quench not the spirit, right? So we got to always constantly be learning, right? Despise not prophesying. And that's what we should do. Despise not prophesying, meaning always look to understand this book, because it tells us this in Revelation 19 and 10. It tells us this. Revelation 19 and 10 tell us this. It says, God, for the testimony of Yahushua is the spirit of prophecy. So to understand Christ, it's the spirit of prophecy. So you want to get that understanding of Christ, because then it's going to open your mind up to the spirit of prophecy. You're going to understand these prophecies. And you want to covet the spirit of prophesying and understanding this book, right? It says, God, for the testimony of Jesus, the testimony of the Mashiach, Yahushua, is the spirit of prophecy, right? So back over here, what it say? It says, despise not prophesying. So you don't want to despise the ability to prophesy. You want to be able to, covet that gift of prophesying, right? Let's get, what is it? Let's get Corinthians real quick. It's called Corinthians. First Corinthians, what was it? I think it was hold on. Where that? Okay, I think it's right here. So right here it says, so Corinthians 14 and, let me see where I want to start at. 37, right? No, 39, right here. No, 38. Wait, I'm like, So yeah, let's start at 38. So, Corinthians 14 and 38. But if any man be ignorant, let him be ignorant. Because some people just don't want to know, right? Some people don't want to know. So sometimes you can't talk to everybody. Sometimes, you can try, the Bible says, you can try it 3 times. After that third, time, the Bible says, Christ says, just, shake the dust off your foot at him, right? Just leave him alone. And it says, but if any man be ignorant, let him be ignorant. Hey, if you want to be stupid, let him be stupid, right? It says, because again, we're talking about the spirit of Christ. Because what it say over here? It says that God, for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, right? So now you should want to have that spirit. But again, people, they don't study. They don't want to, further their self in this walk. But it says, therefore, brethren, covet to prophesy, meaning you should want the ability to prophesy. You should pray to God for that spiritual gift that you can prophesy and understand these scriptures. It says, wherefore, brethren, covet to prophesy, and forbid not to speak with tongues. Let all things be done decently in order, right? So, and that's the spirit of Christ, to want to have that ability to prophesy, to look at these scriptures and understand it and break it down, right? That's the spirit that we all should want, right? Even what's that dude's name? I don't even know exactly where it at. Let me see if I can come across it real quick. What was his name? Hold up. I'm gonna find it. It's somewhere around here. But the point I was making, because I don't spend too much time though, but there was this guy named Bar Jesus, and Paul was going around teaching, and they saw that how they was healing everybody and doing all that cool stuff, and he thought it was like some type of little magic type of trick that he can just learn to do, or he can pay for, and and Paul had to check him about it, right? So, but I was just trying to find it though. I didn't want to paraphrase it, but yeah though. Where was we? So just go back. Go back to what Thessalonians. Hold on. Did I read Romans already? Hold on. Okay, yeah, I read that. So yeah, all right, so let's say I can read it one more time. It says, therefore, brethren, covet to prophesy and forbid not to speak with tongue. Right? So we want the ability to prophesy. And so let's get this real quick. I think it's in Ecclesiastes 39:1, real quick. Ecclesiastes 39:1. And it say, but he that give his mind to the law of the Most High is occupied in meditation thereof, and will seek out the wisdom of the ancient. And that's what we do. We seek out the wisdom of the ancient by reading this book, going through the prophecies, breaking them down, matching them up with world history, so we can see where we at in this thing. Then it says, and will be occupied in prophecy. Right? And that's what we try to do. We try to occupy ourselves in prophecy. That's what we, mainly focus on this channel is prophecy, and of course going through different Bible lessons that we may falsely learn through these nasty, filthy, dirty churches, right? So it says, boom, 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 it says, but he that give his mind unto the law of the Most High and occupied in meditation thereof will seek out of the wisdom of the ancient and be occupied in prophecy. He will keep the sayings of the renowned man, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. So, you're going to be, you're going to have a ear to listen to the wisdom and inclined to, to hear every little subtlety to try to, advance your understanding in this walk, right? Because you're going to be, what it says, it's occupied in meditation thereof, and will seek out a wisdom of all ancients, and occupied in prophecy. Because again, like we read in Revelation, the Spirit of Christ is to be occupied in prophecy, right? And that's what we try to do here. That's why we cover so much prophecy and talk about the end of the world so much, because we operating in the Spirit of Christ, and the Spirit of Christ is the Spirit of prophecy. So it says, back over here, it says, prove all things, hold fast to which is good, right? And that's the thing, you want to prove all things and hold fast to, which is good. And hold up. And improve all things and hold fast to what is good, right? And what is good? And we got to prove all things, right? And that's the thing. A lot of times people say stuff and they just want you to believe it, but you got to prove all things. And some people are so used to just saying stuff. When you ask questions, they get defensive because they don't know how to prove all things. They just know how to say a whole bunch of stuff. But it tells us, prove all things, hold fast that which is true. So what is, you prove all things, right? You put everything through, a filter and see, does it line up to thus said the Lord? Is it true or not? If it's not thus said the Lord, because that's what you got to learn, how to filter things through the Bible. And as you filter things through the Bible, it says, hold fast to what is true, right? Prove all things, hold fast to what is true, right? So it says, Romans 15:4, for whatsoever thing were written before time was written for our learning. So what was written before time? The scriptures, right? What they call the Old Testament, right? Which is really no such thing as Old Testament, New Testament. Those are just terminology that they placed on it. But the scriptures, right? It's written before, and that was written for our learning. For whatsoever was written before time was written before for our learning, that we, through patience and comfort, the scriptures might have hope. So by reading and understanding these scriptures, it gives us hope, because, God gave us the game plan on what He's going to do and when He's going to do it, right? So as we read these things and understand these things, it says, through patience and comfort, the scriptures might have hope, right? And so that's what we, that's what we bank on, by our knowledge and wisdom and understanding that the Most High gives us. Because understanding, like it tells us, it will be the wisdom and our knowledge will be our stability when times get rough, right? It says, it says, now the God of patience and consolidation grant you to be like-minded one towards another according to Christ Jesus. So again, loving one another according to the Mashiach Yahushua, and which is the law, that how we're taught to deal with one another, right? So, and it's all this stuff is written before time, and it's written for our learning. Just that we don't read these things because we're told not to read it. Let's get 2 Timothy 3:16, right? 3:16. And it says, this: all scripture is given by inspiration of God So 'cause a lot of people be like, man, who wrote that book? Man, that's the white man book. Right? That's what people say, right? And it's funny, and I hate this was funny too. I just saw this the other day. That's what just made me thought about it. I hate to hear people argue and try to, debate the Bible and they come off like super Christian. Oh yeah, the God says this and oh that's not right. The Bible says this and the blah, 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 right? So then once you start giving them the proper understanding of the book, then once they start seeing that everything they were saying is wrong, then they say, well, who wrote that book? And that's a white man's book anyway. So then think about that, right? Let's just say before you even got to the point where they just finally said, well, that's a white man's book. So that means before all that, to this point, when you close your eyes and say, lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord our soul to keep, you're thinking of a white man in your head, right? That's a problem. That's called Stockholm Syndrome, right? So if your response is, well, white man wrote that book, white man wrote that book, let me help you out. For all those that may think, a white man wrote that book, right? They're not that smart to write something like this, all right? They're not. Trust me, they're not, right? They're not. Remember, these people were burning people because they can swim. Remember that? They're not that smart, right? These people were drinking out of their grandfather's skull and using their bone fragments as what we call silverware in the medieval times. They're not that smart, right? I mean, so we should not give them that much credit to think that all this divine wisdom. Come on now, that's crazy, right? Come on now. What did it say? All Scripture is given an inspired of an inspiration of God, and is probable for doctrine. So the holy man that wrote this book was inspired by God to write these things down, right? So it's not that they was just sitting up freestyling one day. It was inspired by God to put these things down, for our learning. It says, all Scripture is given by the inspiration of God and profitable for doctrine, for reproof and correction, for instructions in righteousness, right? And that's what we got to understand. For that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly finished unto all good works, right? And that's what we got to understand, right? So, again, not a white man's book. Our ancestors wrote this book. They are very knowledgeable individuals, very intelligent people that put this book together throughout the centuries of time, right? And so, and like we just read, it is written for our learning, right? Let's get Nehemiah real quick. Okay, Nehemiah. Really, really quick. Nehemiah 8:8. So, hold up. So let's read again. It says, all Scripture is inspired of God and profitable for doctrine, for reproof and correction, and for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works, right? So let's see how our dear brother Nehemiah was getting down. Because we got to understand how this thing goes. And it said, Nehemiah 8:8. So they read the book of the law, because that's what this is, the book of the law. It's not no religion thing, nothing. This is a law book. And it says, so they read the book of the law of God distinctively, like we're doing here. We're reading the book of the law, which is this Bible that we call it the Bible today. And we're reading it distinctively. And what we're doing, and gave sense. We're giving sense because, a lot of people are like, oh man, just read the Bible. But just like our ancestors of old, they read the scripture and they gave sense. And it says, and they read the book of the law of God distinctively and gave sense and caused them to understand the reading. So that's what we do. We break it down to understand so we can understand the reading, right? Because just like our ancestors did back then, it says they read the book of the law of God distinctively and gave sense. So as we reading this thing, we're breaking it down, we're making it make sense because we live in 2026. So we modernize it and make it understandable to the world that we live in, right? And we can also break it down in the historical context that it was written in, right? Because it's still all the same. It's just that we living in a different year, right? So it says, they read the book of the law of God distinctively and gave sense and caused them to understand the reading, right? And that's why it's important to read this thing, right? And to understand it, right? So let's get back over here. And so it says, prove all things, hold fast to which is good. Abstain from appearance of evil. And that's a thing we got to do. We got to abstain from the appearance of evil because, you could not be doing anything wrong. But you have people watching you that's probably looking up to you that, probably, and they see you do certain things. Or it may appear that you're doing something. Then it can kind of make them weaken their walk, right? So it says abstain from the appearance of evil, right? And I use this example, because my sister, she liked to eat seafood. So it was a time like she do her little birthday thing, whatever, right? Or or whatever type of celebration, whatever it may be. So if they go into a seafood restaurant, I don't eat seafood anyway, but at the same time, I wouldn't go, or if I go, I wouldn't be all up in, pictures or nothing like that, because if I'm sitting in a seafood restaurant, everybody place is filled up with shrimp, crab, and lobster, I'm sitting there, they gonna be like, what you doing there? Right? People that know, they gonna be like, what you doing there? That's why it says abstain from the appearance of evil, right? And I'm just using that as an example. It could be anything. It could be, how they say, guilty of association, right? You could be around some people that's doing wrong, and then the police come in and kick in the door. Now everybody going to jail, right? Because it says abstain from the appearance of evil, right? So you don't even want to be, mixed up in it. You want to, don't even want to give a person the thought, that because it says abstain from the appearance of evil. And the very God of peace sanctify you wholly, and I pray Yahweh your whole spirit, and I read it right. It says, and I pray God your whole spirit and soul, the body be preserved and blameless until the coming of the Mashiach Yahweh Shai, right? So you want to, as we're seeing this whole world crumble and fall apart, sky fall, right? And we're gathering ourselves together, and all that cool stuff. And it says, I pray God your whole spirit, the soul, and the body be preserved blameless. So we're keeping the faith in the Mashiach, and we keeping the we and we keeping up to the works, right? And staying blameless, because we stay blameless by keeping the laws, doing the commandments, right? All the way into the end, because like Christ said, he that endures to the end shall he give power over the nations, right? And let's get that real quick, I think. Let's get it really, really quick. So it's Revelation 2:26. He that overcometh and keep my works unto the end. So you overcome, you doing you keeping the commandments unto the end, right? And the end could be, the day your heart stop beating in your chest, or it could be when you see that black man, crack the sky and he come through with the millions and millions of angels with him, right? And and fix this whole situation that we into, right? So that could be the end. But whatever that end may be, you keep, the faith in the Mashiach and the faith in the commandments to the end. And it says, and he that overcometh and keep my works unto the end, to him I will give power over the nations. So that's the promise he's going to give to his people, to rule over these nations, which is fitting because these nations have ruled over us, right? And it says, and he shall rule over them with a rod of iron. As a vessel of powder, they shall be broken as silver, as broken to shivers, even as I received of my Father. So we're going to have that ruling power, that ruling authority to punish these nations if they get out of line, to put judgment on these people if they don't do thus said the Lord and follow the way that we prescribe for this for them, right? Back over here. It says, and the very God of peace sanctify you wholly, and I pray, God, your whole spirit and soul and body be preserved blameless until the coming of your Lord Christ Jesus. Faithful is he that calleth you, who also will do it. Right? Because, Christ, he's going to hold his end of the bargain. What did he say? I go to prepare a place that has many mansions. He's going to hold his end of the bargain. So it says, faithful is he that calleth you, who also will do it. He going to do it. What they say, won't he do it? What they say, don't they say that in church? Don't they be saying that stuff, right? Won't he do it? Yeah, he will, right? I think they say that, right? Then it says, faithful is he that calleth you, who also will do it. Brethren, pray for us. Yes, pray for us. We need that prayer. Our people need that prayer, right? We need all that love we want to go give to the other man. We need to go give it to the brother man, right? We need to pray for each other, right? Like we read in Zephaniah, gather yourself together. We have so much love. We are very, very loving people. But the problem is we don't love our people. We love everybody else but who we're supposed to love, who God called us to love, right? We give out, I'm giving you all my love to you. We give it all to the other nations instead of to each other, right? The Lord says, hold not no grudges against the children of Israel. Hate not thy brother, right? It's talking about us, right? The people of Israel. And we took that and we applied it to everybody else to the point where one of those people may unalive us, and we like, well, we're just going to pray for you and ask for forgiveness. I forgive you, right? But they don't do that, right? Brethren, pray for us. We need that prayer. We need that love, right? We need us black people to love black people, right? We can fix black people when we love black people. When we stop giving our love to everybody else, I'm giving my love to you. What was that, Whitney Houston? If we stop being like Whitney Houston, giving our love to everybody else, then we can fix black people. Because what they say, charity starts at home. We can't love everybody else until we love each other. We have to learn how to deal with each other first, right? That's why they don't respect us. They would tell you this too. Everything I'm saying right now at this point is stuff that they say. They're like, well, we can't respect black people. Y'all don't even love each other, right? So you want to love everybody else. It says, brethren, pray for us. Greet all brethren with a holy kiss. Greet all brethren with a holy kiss. So be cordial with each other. Quit mean mugging each other, right? If you see somebody, they be like, hey, what's up? Don't be looking at them all mean, like, who you talking to, right? Because people do that, right? Like, I don't know that dude, like, I don't know who they speaking to. I don't know, like, why do we act like that? It says, greet all brethren with a holy kiss. And it's not talking about when it says holy kiss, it's not talking about, an actual peck on the cheek or the lips, like how the little homosexual French people do. How they do that little stuff over there, right? We ain't talking about that, right? It's talking about how we dap each other up. We see each other in the street, we dap each other up. Hey, how you doing? Boom, bow, bang. Or that little grab each other and you kind of do the little embrace, you hug, boom, holy kiss. In the simplest form, the word kiss just means to touch, right? It doesn't necessarily mean two lips coming together. In the simplest form, kiss just means to touch. You like that song, excuse me as I kiss the sky. Is he really kissing the sky? No, he's talking about he's so high up in the air that he's kissing the sky. He's touching the sky, right? We know that song, right? So it says greet each other with a holy kiss, meaning be cordial. Don't be so, I don't know who that person, I'm not speaking to them. They need to speak to me first. I don't speak to people first. Don't do that. That's not how you be brotherly and sisterly. Greet all brethren with a holy kiss. I charge you by the Lord that this epistle be read to the holy brethren. So who is the holy brethren, right? Let's see who our holy brethren is. Because holy means to be set apart, right? I know in that nasty, disgusting building they had you in, they done said that word holy a million gazillion times, and you think holy is some type of magic hocus pocus word that you use. Holy just means to be separate, right? To be separate and set apart. Like this book is separate from this book. I mean, but so that would make this book, if I put this book right here, this book is holy from this book. This book is holy from that book. They're separate, right? And we are separate people. Deuteronomy 7:6 tell us this. For thou art a holy people, separate people. That's what the word holy means. It's not a magic word. Oh, holy. They say holy, 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 holy. That's what they say in church. I heard them said it before, right? It says, for thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God have chosen thee. Who is the thee? The Israelites, Black, Hispanic, Native American people, to be special people unto himself. He made us special unto himself because we're holy. We're separate from the other 7-8 billion people on this planet. F them, right? We're separate, right? It says, for thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God had chosen thee to be special, a special people unto himself, above all people that are on the face of the earth. So not only did he separate us and say, hey, these are going to be my people. Okay, I created 7 billion, 8 billion, whatever. Who's counting? They're over there. But these people here is going to be my people. I separated them. They're going to be mine. Right? Mine. And it says, not only are we his, it says, to be a special people unto himself above all people that are on the face of the earth. So while we walking around, no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. We ain't supposed to be, they need to be asking us for no justice, no peace. Because we just read, we are above all people. We shouldn't even be asking for this stuff. The thing is, the roads done changed. Like it tells us in, Ecclesiasticus? It says, it says the servants is now riding on the horse and the kings are walking now. That's what we're doing. We're walking and the servants are on the horses now. Right? Because he meant this right here when he said, for thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. He had chosen thee to be a special people unto himself. We're special. He meant all that stuff. Because look at what we do. Best singers, best dancers, best athletes, best everything you can think of. We invented damn near everything that makes this whole world go around. We're cold at everything we do. So he really meant this. But it's just that the fact that we're not keeping our end of the contract was to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments and do what he asked us to do so we can rule this planet like he promised us. Right? So Hope you understand. Back over here. And it says, I charge you by the Lord, that this epistle be read unto all the holy brethren. So we already established who the holy brethren is. They are the Israelites, right? Then it says, the grace of our Lord, the Mashiach Yahushai, Christ Jesus, be with you, right? That's what our dear brother Paul is talking about. So again, so we got to understand this stuff, like I said, God is going to judge this world. And as he's passing judgment on this world, as we coming back, to our culture, to our identity, our keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, he's protect his people. He's waiting to protect his people. He's waiting to move, on our behalf. And that's why it's important that we do this, because every time we do this, every time we prophesy against this place, more stuff happens in the world, right? Because he's judging this place. As more of us wake up, more judgment happens to this place, right? And that's going to usher in the Mashiach Yahushua, who the world calls Jesus Christ, right? So hopefully that was edifying. Until next time, peace. We out. Shalom.